I never meant to fall in love with him. But the moment his hand lingered on mine a second too long while passing me a coffee mug in his kitchen, I knew everything had changed. My best friend was upstairs, oblivious. And his father, Marcus, was standing so close, I could feel the heat radiating from his body. "You okay, Ethan?" he whispered, his voice low and careful. I couldn't answer, because the truth was, I wasn't okay. I hadn't been okay since the night he looked at me like I was the only person in the room. It started 6 months ago.
Ow.
Though if I'm being honest, the seeds were planted long before that. I'd known Tyler since middle school. We were inseparable, the kind of friends people assumed would be brothers in another life. And Marcus. He was just Tyler's dad. The guy who drove us to soccer practice, who made terrible dad jokes at barbecues, who always had a kind word and a warm smile. He was tall, broad-shouldered, with silver threading through his dark hair, and these impossibly kind eyes that crinkled when he laughed. I never looked at him that way. Not until the night of Tyler's birthday party, when everything I thought I understood about myself got turned upside down. Tyler had invited half the university to their house, and the place was packed with drunk college kids and pounding music. I'd stepped outside for air, overwhelmed by the noise and the crowd, found Marcus sitting alone on the back porch, nursing a beer and staring up at the stars. "Mind if I join you?" I'd asked, and he'd gestured to the chair beside him with a tired smile. We sat in comfortable silence for a while, kind of silence that only exists between people who don't need to fill every moment with words. Then he turned to me, really looked at me and asked, "You doing okay, Ethan? You seem distant lately." The concern in his voice caught me off guard. Here was this man, this father figure who'd been a steady presence in my life for years, and he was asking about me. Not about Tyler, not about school or grades or my future, just me. And in that moment, under the soft glow of the porch light, I saw him differently. Not as my best friend's dad, but as Marcus. As a man who was kind and thoughtful and devastatingly handsome in a way that made my chest tight. "I'm fine," I'd lied, because what else could I say? That I was struggling with feelings I didn't understand? That I'd recently come out to myself but not to anyone else? That sitting next to him made my heart race in a way I couldn't explain. He'd studied me for a long moment, those intelligent eyes searching mine, and then nodded slowly. "You know you can talk to me, right? About anything." The weight of his sincerity nearly broke me. From that night on, something shifted. I started noticing things I'd never paid attention to before. The way his shirt stretched across his shoulders when he reached for something on a high shelf. The deep timbre of his laugh. The gentleness in his hands when he'd rest one on my shoulder in greeting. I told myself it was nothing, just a confused reaction to finally accepting my sexuality. But the more time I spent at Tyler's house, the harder it became to ignore the pull I felt toward Marcus. Tyler, oblivious as ever, kept inviting me over. "Dude, just stay for dinner," he'd say, not knowing that every family meal was torture for me. I'd sit across from Marcus at the dining table, hyper-aware of every glance. Every accidental brush of our feet under the table, every moment his attention landed on me. His wife, Helen, had passed away 3 years earlier from cancer, and since then, Marcus had thrown himself into being both mother and father to Tyler. There was a loneliness in his eyes sometimes, a weight I recognized because I carried my own. One Saturday afternoon, Tyler got called into an emergency shift at his part-time job, leaving me alone in the house with Marcus. I should have left. I should have made an excuse and gone home. Instead, I found myself in the living room, helping Marcus organize old photo albums he'd been meaning to sort through. We sat on the floor, shoulders almost touching, flipping through memories of Tyler's childhood and Helen's radiant smile. "She would have liked you," Marcus said softly, his finger tracing the edge of a photograph. Helen always said the measure of a person was in how they treated others when no one was watching. "You're good too, Tyler. You're good to everyone." The compliment warmed me from the inside out, and when I turned to thank him, I found his face much closer than I'd expected. Our eyes met, and for a heartbeat, the world seemed to hold its breath. I could see the exact moment he realized it too. That crackling awareness, that dangerous electricity that hummed between us. His gaze dropped to my lips, just for a fraction of a second, and my breath caught in my throat. Then he pulled back abruptly, clearing his throat and returning his attention to the photos with forced concentration. "We should, keep sorting," he muttered, and I nodded, not trusting my voice. After that day, I noticed Marcus started keeping his distance. When I'd come over, he'd greet me warmly, but then disappear into his home office or find reasons to be elsewhere. It hurt more than I wanted to admit, this sudden absence. Had I imagined that moment between us? Had I made him uncomfortable? The questions tormented me, but I couldn't bring myself to ask. Couldn't risk making things worse or exposing the feelings I was desperately trying to suppress. Tyler noticed my distraction. "You've been weird lately," he said one evening as we played video games in his room. "Everything cool?" I forced a laugh, blaming it on stress about upcoming exams, and he seemed to accept the explanation. But lying to my best friend felt like swallowing glass. How could I tell him that I was falling for his father? That every time I was in this house, I was fighting a losing battle with my own heart? The breaking point came during a thunderstorm in late October. I'd been at the library studying when the weather turned violent, sheets of rain hammering down and lightning splitting the sky. My apartment was across town, and the buses had stopped running. Without thinking, I called the one person I knew would answer. "Marcus, I'm sorry to bother you, but where are you?" He interrupted, his voice tight with concern. "I'm coming to get you." 20 minutes later, his car pulled up outside the library, and I ran through the rain to climb into the passenger seat. I was soaked through, shivering, and when Marcus reached over to turn up the heat, his hand brushed my arm. The touch was innocent, practical, but it sent a jolt through me that had nothing to do with the cold. "Thank you," I managed, my teeth chattering. "Tyler's at his girlfriend's place tonight," Marcus said, as he pulled back onto the road. "But you're welcome to crash at ours. No sense going all the way across town in this weather." The house was dark and quiet when we arrived, the storm still raging outside. Marcus handed me a towel and some of his clothes to change into, and I disappeared into the bathroom, my heart hammering against my ribs. When I emerged, drowning in his oversized sweatshirt and sweatpants, I found him in the kitchen making hot chocolate. The domesticity of the moment. Standing in his kitchen, wearing his clothes, watching him move with easy familiarity, felt both achingly right and terrifyingly wrong. "Come sit," he said, gesturing to the couch in the living room. We settled in the space between us both, too much and not enough. The only light coming from the occasional flash of lightning outside. Marcus handed me a mug, and our fingers touched as I took it. This time, neither of us pulled away immediately. "Ethan," he said quietly, his voice rough, "I need to apologize." I blinked at him, confused. "For what?" He set his mug down on the coffee table and turned to face me fully, his expression serious in the dim light. "For pulling away these past few weeks, it was unfair of me, and I'm sorry. You're important to Tyler, and you've become important to me too, and I let my own." He stopped abruptly, jaw clenching. "I let my own concerns get in the way of being a good friend to you." The word friend landed like a stone in my chest, heavy and cold. But beneath his carefully controlled exterior, I could see the tension, the war being waged behind his eyes. This was a man who was holding something back, who was as torn up about this situation as I was. The realization gave me a dangerous kind of courage. "Marcus," I said softly, setting down my own mug, "what are you concerned about?" His eyes met mine, and in them, I saw everything. The longing, the conflict, the fear. "You're half my age," he said finally, his voice barely above a whisper. "You're my son's best friend." And he ran a hand through his hair, frustrated. "I have no right to feel the way I feel when you're around. It's inappropriate. It's wrong. But God help me, Ethan. I can't stop thinking about you." The confession hung in the air between us, electric and terrifying, and more honest than anything I'd ever heard. My heart was racing so fast I thought it might burst from my chest. "It's not wrong," I heard myself say, my voice shaking. "Not if I feel the same way." The words were out before I could stop them. Truth I'd been holding on to for months, finally released into the world. Marcus closed his eyes, his expression pained. "You don't understand what you're saying. The complications, the hurt it would cause, I understand perfectly," I interrupted, leaning closer. I understand that I've been falling for you since that night on the porch. I understand that every time I see you, it gets harder to pretend I don't feel this. And I understand that this is complicated and messy and probably a terrible idea. But I can't keep lying about it. Not to you. Not to myself. The silence that followed was deafening, broken only by the rumble of thunder outside. Then Marcus did something I didn't expect. He reached out and cupped my face with one hand, his thumb brushing across my cheekbone with unbearable gentleness. "You're sure?" he asked, his voice raw with emotion. "Because once we cross this line, there's no going back. Everything changes." I leaned into his touch, my eyes never leaving his. "I'm sure?" What happened next felt like slow motion and fast forward all at once. Marcus closed the distance between us, his forehead resting against mine as we breathed the same air. "Tell me to stop," he whispered, giving me one last chance to pull away. Instead, I closed my eyes and whispered back, "Don't stop." And then his lips were on mine, tentative at first, testing, before deepening into something that felt like coming home and diving off a cliff. Simultaneously, the kiss was everything and nothing like I'd imagined. Soft and searching, filled with months of pent-up longing and unspoken words. His hands moved to my waist, pulling me closer, and I went willingly, my fingers threading through his hair. We kissed, like we were making up for lost time, like we were both drowning in each other's only source of air. When we finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Marcus pressed his lips to my forehead and held me close. "What have we done?" he murmured against my hair, but there was no regret in his voice, only wonder and fear intertwined. "I don't know," I admitted, my face buried in his chest, listening to the rapid beat of his heart. "But I don't want to take it back." We stayed like that for a long time, wrapped up in each other while the storm raged outside, both of us knowing that this moment was the beginning of something beautiful and impossible. The next few weeks were stolen moments and secret glances, a relationship conducted in the spaces between reality. When Tyler was around, Marcus and I were careful to maintain appropriate distance, to act like nothing had changed. But when we were alone, which we engineered more and more frequently, we were insatiable for each other's presence. Conversations that stretched late into the night, hands held under tables, kisses stolen in empty hallways. Marcus was terrified of what this meant for his relationship with Tyler. And honestly, so was I. My best friend trusted me implicitly, loved his father without question, and here we were, keeping this massive secret from him. The guilt ate at me constantly, warring with the pure joy I felt whenever Marcus looked at me with those warm, loving eyes. "We have to tell him eventually," I'd say, and Marcus would nod, his expression troubled. "I know. Just not yet. Let me figure out how." But the universe had other plans. It was a Tuesday afternoon when everything fell apart. Tyler had come home early from class, complaining of a headache, and decided to surprise his dad by cooking dinner. I was there, sitting at the kitchen counter, supposedly doing homework, while Marcus prepared ingredients beside me. What Tyler saw when he walked through the door was innocent enough, his dad's hand on my shoulder, both of us laughing at something, but the way we jumped apart, the guilty looks on our faces, told him everything he needed to know. "What the hell is going on?" Tyler asked, his voice dangerously quiet. I'd never heard that tone from him before, cold and sharp as broken glass. Marcus and I exchanged a panicked look, and in that split second of silence, Tyler's expression went from confusion to understanding to betrayal. "Oh my God," he breathed, taking a step back. "You too, are you?" He couldn't even finish the sentence, his face draining of color. "Tyler, please, let me explain," Marcus started, moving toward his son. But Tyler held up a hand, stopping him in his tracks. "Don't. Just don't." His eyes, usually so warm and friendly, were now fixed on me with a look that cut deeper than any knife. "You're my best friend, Ethan. My best friend. How could you?" The anguish in his voice shattered something inside me. I opened my mouth to respond, to apologize, to make him understand, but what could I possibly say that would make this okay? "Tyler, this isn't what you think. I tried, but he cut me off with a bitter laugh. Really? Because it looks like you've been screwing around with my dad behind my back? Was I wrong about that? The crudeness of the word, so unlike Tyler, showed just how deeply we'd hurt him. Marcus stepped between us, his face set in determined lines. Don't talk to him like that. This isn't his fault. If you're going to be angry at someone, be angry at me. Oh, I'm angry at both of you, Tyler shot back, his voice rising. But you're my father. You're supposed to be the adult here. He's 22 years old, for Christ's sake. What the hell were you thinking? The accusation hung heavy in the air, and I watched Marcus flinch as if struck. I was thinking, Marcus said slowly, carefully, that I haven't felt this way about anyone since your mother died. That, Ethan, makes me feel alive again, in a way I didn't think was possible. And yes, the age difference is significant. And yes, the situation is complicated, but my feelings for him are real. The vulnerability in Marcus's confession seemed to take some of the wind out of Tyler's sails. He stood there, chest heaving, looking between his father and his best friend like we were strangers. How long? He asked finally. How long has this been going on? A few weeks, I admitted quietly. But Tyler, I've had feelings for him longer. I never meant for this to happen. I never wanted to hurt you. But you did, Tyler said, and the simple truth of it was devastating. You both did. My best friend and my dad. Jesus, this is so messed up. He ran his hands through his hair, looking overwhelmed and lost. I can't be here right now. I can't look at either of you. Before we could stop him, Tyler grabbed his keys and stormed out, the front door slamming behind him with a finality that echoed through the house. The silence in Tyler's wake was suffocating. Marcus sank into a chair, his head in his hands, and I stood frozen, feeling like the world had just ended. He hates me, I whispered, and the words felt like admitting defeat. Marcus looked up at me, his eyes red-rimmed. He doesn't hate you. He's hurt and confused and feeling betrayed. But he doesn't hate you, Ethan. He just needs time. What if time isn't enough? I asked, voicing the fear that had been clawing at my chest since Tyler walked out. What if we've destroyed our relationship with him forever? Marcus stood and pulled me into his arms, holding me tight as I fought back tears. Then we face the consequences together, he said firmly. But I don't regret this. I don't regret us, do you? I pulled back to look at him, seeing the fear and hope mingled in his expression. No, I said honestly. I don't regret us. But I don't want to lose Tyler either. I know. Neither do I. Marcus pressed a kiss to my forehead, gentle and reassuring. We'll give him space. We'll let him process. And when he's ready to talk, we'll be honest with him about everything. How this happened, why it happened, what it means. And we'll hope that eventually he can understand. It sounded like a reasonable plan, but the fear in my gut told me it wouldn't be that simple. Tyler didn't come home that night or the next. He was staying with his girlfriend, according to the terse text he sent his father. Marcus and I were in limbo, our relationship now out in the open but feeling more fragile than ever. I went back to my apartment, giving both of them space. But Marcus and I talked every day, long phone calls where we dissected everything, where he reassured me that we'd get through this, where I tried to believe him. A week passed. Then two. Tyler was avoiding both of us, ignoring my calls and texts, barely responding to his father's attempts at communication. I felt like I was being carved out from the inside, grief and guilt and love all tangled up in a knot I couldn't untie. My grades started slipping. I stopped going out with other friends. All I could think about was the massive rift I'd helped create between a father and son who'd been through so much already. It was Marcus who finally forced the conversation. He showed up at Tyler's girlfriend's apartment one evening, refusing to leave until Tyler agreed to talk. I wasn't there for that initial conversation. Marcus thought it was important for them to speak alone first, but he called me afterward, his voice thick with emotion. He's willing to meet with us, Marcus said. All three of us. This weekend. He wants to hear our side, really hear it. Saturday arrived with all the dread of a funeral. We met at a neutral location, a quiet park near the university where Tyler and I used to study sometimes. He was already there when Marcus and I arrived, sitting on a bench with his arms crossed, his expression guarded. The easy warmth that had always existed between us was gone, replaced by this awful, careful distance. "Hey," I said softly as we approached. Tyler nodded in acknowledgement, but didn't speak. Marcus sat down on one end of the bench. I took the other end, leaving Tyler in the middle, a physical representation of the divide we'd created. For a long moment, no one spoke. Then Tyler said, "I've been doing a lot of thinking. A lot of talking with Jess, too. And I still don't really understand how this happened, but I'm willing to listen. So talk. Make me understand." I glanced at Marcus and he nodded, encouraging me to go first. Taking a deep breath, I turned to my best friend. "Tyler, you know me better than almost anyone. You know I came out to myself about a year ago, that I've been figuring out my sexuality and what it means. When I started having feelings for your dad, I tried to ignore them. Tried to convince myself it was just confusion or misplaced emotions or anything other than what it actually was. But the truth is, I fell in love with him." The words hung in the air, simple and undeniable. Tyler's expression didn't change, but I saw his jaw tighten. Marcus picked up where I left off, and I fell in love with him. Not because of his age, or because he's your friend, but in spite of those complications. Ethan makes me laugh. He challenges me. He sees me not as Tyler's dad, or Helen's widower, but as just Marcus. A person with his own dreams and flaws, and capacity to love. What we have isn't some midlife crisis or inappropriate fling. It's real, Tyler. It's the kind of real your mother and I had. Tyler flinched at the mention of his mother, and I saw the conflict playing out across his face. "Do you have any idea how weird this is for me?" he asked, his voice cracking slightly. "You're my best friend, Ethan. We've known each other for 10 years. And Dad, I'm happy you found someone. I really am. But did it have to be him? Did it have to be the one person whose friendship I rely on more than anyone else's? It feels like I'm losing both of you." "You're not losing us," I said urgently, leaning forward. "Tyler, you're my best friend. That hasn't changed. That will never change. I know I should have been honest with you from the beginning, and I'm so sorry I wasn't. But I was scared. Scared of losing you. Scared of what you'd think. Scared of naming these feelings out loud, because then they'd be real. That doesn't excuse lying to you. I know that. But please believe me when I say I never wanted to hurt you." Marcus reached out, hesitantly placing a hand on his son's shoulder. Tyler didn't pull away, which felt like a small victory. "You're my son," Marcus said, his voice heavy with emotion. "You're the most important person in my life, and that hasn't changed either. If being with Ethan meant losing you, I would walk away. You have to know that. But I'm asking, begging, for your blessing instead, because having both of you in my life would mean everything." Tyler was quiet for so long I thought he might not respond at all. When he finally spoke, his voice was small and tired. "I don't know if I can give you my blessing. Not yet. Maybe not for a while," but paused, looking between us with eyes that were starting to fill with tears. "But I don't want to lose either of you either. You're my family. Both of you. And I guess family means trying to understand even when it's hard." The relief that flooded through me was almost overwhelming. It wasn't forgiveness, not complete forgiveness anyway, but it was a door left open instead of slammed shut. "Thank you," I breathed. "Tyler, thank you. I promise I'll do everything I can to prove you can still trust me." Marcus wrapped his arm around his son's shoulders, pulling him into a side hug that Tyler allowed. "We'll take this slow," Marcus said. "Whatever you need from us, whatever boundaries you need us to respect, we'll do it. I need you to not be all couple-y around me," Tyler said, pulling back and wiping at his eyes roughly. "At least not for a while. I need time to adjust to seeing you as whatever you are now, instead of just my dad and my friend, and I need you both to be honest with me from now on. No more secrets." We both nodded immediately, agreeing to his terms. It wasn't perfect, and there was still a lot of healing that needed to happen. But it was a start. The months that followed were a slow process of rebuilding trust and redefining relationships. True to his word, Tyler kept some distance at first. Seeing his dad for family dinners where I wasn't present, and hanging out with me one-on-one without bringing up Marcus. It was awkward and careful, like we were all learning a new dance and kept stepping on each other's toes. But gradually, incrementally, things started to feel more natural. The first time the three of us hung out together post-confession was bizarre. We went to see a movie, sitting with Tyler pointedly in the middle, and afterward grabbed food at our usual diner. Marcus and I were careful not to hold hands or show any physical affection, respecting Tyler's boundaries. But there were moments, a shared glance, a private smile, that Tyler noticed. "You two are really in love, aren't you?" he said suddenly, looking between us with something like wonder. Marcus and I exchanged a glance, and I saw my own hope reflected in his eyes. "Yeah," I admitted. "We really are," nodded slowly, processing. "It's still weird. I don't know if it'll ever not be weird, but I can see it now, what you mean to each other. And I guess I'd rather you both be happy and weird than apart and miserable." It wasn't a ringing endorsement, but coming from Tyler, it felt like a massive victory. Marcus reached across the table and squeezed his son's hand. "That means the world to me. To both of us." Tyler squeezed back, and I felt my eyes start to burn with grateful tears. The university community, when they eventually found out about Marcus and me, had mixed reactions. Some people were supportive, others judgmental, and a few made their disapproval clear. I learned to let it roll off my back, to focus on the relationship itself, rather than what others thought of it. Marcus, who'd been worried about the age difference and the power dynamics, made sure we kept things appropriate. I wasn't dependent on him financially. We maintained separate living spaces, and he never tried to parent me or control my decisions. What we had was a partnership, built on mutual respect and genuine affection. He encouraged my goals and dreams, celebrated my successes, and supported me through my struggles. I did the same for him, helping him rediscover parts of himself he'd lost in the years of grief and single parenthood. Together, we were better versions of ourselves. Not because we completed each other in some codependent way, but because we inspired each other to grow. A year after that awful confrontation in Marcus's kitchen, Tyler invited his girlfriend Jess over for what he called a family dinner. Marcus and I arrived together this time, hands linked, and when Tyler opened the door, he rolled his eyes but smiled. "Come on in, lovebirds." The teasing was gentle, affectionate even, and it felt like the final barrier between us had crumbled. Over dinner, Tyler regaled Jess with embarrassing stories about both his father and me, treating our relationship as something normal and accepted. Later, as we were cleaning up, Tyler pulled me aside into the kitchen. "Hey, I just wanted to say, I'm sorry for how I reacted at first. I was hurt and confused, and I said some things I shouldn't have." I shook my head immediately. "You had every right to be hurt. We should have been honest with you from the beginning."
Tyler smiled slightly.
"Maybe, but I also should have trusted that you both wouldn't do something like this lightly. You're good together, Ethan. Really good. And I'm glad you found each other, even if the circumstances were unconventional." The acceptance in his words, the genuine warmth, made my throat tight with emotion. "Thank you," I managed. "Your friendship means everything to me. It always has." Tyler pulled me into a hug, the kind of brotherly embrace we'd shared countless times over the years. "You're stuck with me, man. Best friends for life? Remember? Even if you are dating my dad now." We both laughed, the sound breaking any remaining tension. And when Marcus poked his head in to see what was funny, Tyler just grinned and said nothing. Just giving Ethan the shovel talk. That night, as Marcus and I drove back to his place, I felt lighter than I had in months. "We made it," I said softly, reaching over to take his hand. "Through all the pain and complications and fear, we actually made it." Marcus brought my hand to his lips, pressing a kiss to my knuckles. "We did, and I have no intention of letting you go, Ethan. You're it for me. My second chance at love, my unexpected joy. You're everything." The words settled into my heart like a promise, warm and certain. "You're everything to me too," I replied. "I love you, Marcus." "I love you too," he said, and in those simple words, I heard a future. Not perfect, not uncomplicated, but real and worth fighting for. We pulled into his driveway, and as we walked hand in hand to the front door, I thought about how far we'd come. From that first electric moment on a stormy night to a love that had survived the ultimate test of honesty and acceptance. 6 months later, Tyler graduated from university. The ceremony was crowded and chaotic. But when his name was called and he walked across the stage, Marcus and I both cheered loud enough to embarrass him. Afterward, we took photos, the three of us together. Tyler sandwiched between his father and his best friend, all of us grinning like idiots. Jess took the photo and later showed it to us, pointing out the obvious love and pride radiating from the image. "You guys are a family," she said simply. "A weird, unconventional family, but a family nonetheless." She was right. We'd redefined what family meant, built something new from the ashes of secrets and pain. Marcus and I were careful to maintain space for Tyler's relationship with his father to be his own, separate from my presence. And Tyler was careful to preserve our friendship as something distinct from his acceptance of our relationship. It required communication, boundaries, and a commitment to honesty that we all took seriously. But it worked because we wanted it to work, because we valued each other enough to put in the effort. I finished my degree the following year, and Marcus was there in the crowd beaming with pride, while Tyler whooped and hollered like the best friend he'd always been. At my graduation party, Tyler gave a toast that had everyone laughing and crying in equal measure. "To Ethan," he said, raising his glass. "My best friend, my brother in all but blood, and the guy who somehow charmed my dad into a second chance at happiness. May you continue to be weird and wonderful and exactly who you are," the affection in his words. The complete acceptance was the greatest gift he could have given me. Marcus and I moved in together that fall, a step that felt both momentous and perfectly natural. Tyler helped us move boxes, teasing us about our combined collection of books and Marcus's terrible taste in decorative pillows. The apartment became a home quickly, filled with laughter and warmth and the kind of domestic joy I'd never thought I'd find. On quiet evenings, Marcus and I would cook dinner together, dancing around each other in the kitchen with an ease born of deep affection. On weekends, Tyler would come over for brunch, sometimes bringing Jess, and we'd sit around talking for hours about everything and nothing. There were still challenges, of course. The age difference meant we were in different life stages, with different priorities and perspectives. There were moments of friction, disagreements that required patience and understanding to resolve. Outside our little bubble, not everyone was supportive. Some family members struggled with acceptance, some friends distanced themselves. But we faced each challenge together, Marcus and I, with Tyler as our fiercest defender and advocate. "Anyone who has a problem with you two can fight me," he declared once. And the protective loyalty in his voice reminded me why he was my best friend. 2 years into our relationship, Marcus proposed. It wasn't elaborate or showy, just the two of us on the anniversary of that first kiss during the thunderstorm. Sitting on the same couch where everything had changed. "I know this hasn't been easy," Marcus said, holding my hands in his. "I know we've had to fight for this, that we've faced judgment and doubt and complications most couples never deal with. But Ethan, you are the love of my life. You're my partner, my best friend, my reason for waking up happy every morning. And I don't want to spend another day not officially, legally, completely yours. Will you marry me?" Through tears, I said yes. Yes to him. Yes to us. Yes to this beautiful, complicated, unconventional love we'd built. When we told Tyler the news, he surprised us both by pulling out a bottle of champagne he'd been keeping for this exact occasion. "I knew this was coming," he said with a grin. "And for the record, I fully support it. Dad deserves to be happy, and you, Ethan, you deserve someone who looks at you like you hung the moon." It's disgustingly romantic. The wedding was small and intimate, just close family and friends who'd supported us through everything. Tyler was Marcus's best man, standing beside his father with pride and joy evident in every line of his face. During his toast at the reception, Tyler's voice cracked with emotion. "My dad taught me what love looks like," he said. "He showed me through his devotion to my mom, through his dedication to being the best father he could be, and now through his relationship with Ethan and Ethan. You've shown me what true friendship means, the kind that endures even when things get complicated, even when it would be easier to walk away. I'm honored to witness this love, and I'm grateful to call both of you family. As Marcus and I danced our first dance as husbands, I looked around the room at the people who'd supported us, at Tyler laughing with Jess, at the future stretching out before us bright and full of possibility. "What are you thinking?" Marcus murmured against my ear. "That we made it," I replied, echoing the words I'd said 2 years ago. "Against all odds, we made it." He pulled back to look at me, his eyes shining. "And we're going to keep making it, every single day, for the rest of our lives." Life after the wedding settled into a comfortable rhythm. Marcus and I built careers we were passionate about, traveled to places we'd always dreamed of seeing, and created a home filled with love and laughter. Tyler remained a constant presence, bringing his own family into our fold as he and Jess got married and eventually had children. Being Uncle Ethan to Tyler's kids was a joy I'd never anticipated. And watching Marcus as a grandfather, patient, loving, devoted, only deepened my love for him. The kids knew their Papa Marcus and Uncle Ethan were married, and accepted it as naturally as they accepted the sky being blue. There were no awkward explanations or justified defenses needed. We were simply family, and that was enough. Tyler and Jess were raising their children in an environment of acceptance and love, teaching them that families come in all configurations and that what matters most is the love and respect. People show each other. On our 5th anniversary, Marcus and I returned to that park bench where we'd had the conversation with Tyler, where we'd asked for understanding and been granted a chance. We sat there hand in hand, older now, but no less in love. "Do you ever regret it?" Marcus asked quietly. "The complications, the judgment, the difficulty of our beginning?" I turned to look at him, this man who'd changed my entire world, and smiled. "Never. Not for a single second. You're worth every complication, every challenge, every moment of doubt we had to overcome. You're worth everything." He kissed me then, soft and sweet, a kiss that tasted like coming home and promised forever. "I love you," he whispered against my lips. "More than I thought it was possible to love another person." "I love you too," I replied. "Thank you for taking a chance on us." "On me," he laughed softly. "I think we both took a chance. And look where it led us to this, to happiness, to a life I'm grateful for every single day." As we walked back to our car, I thought about how far we'd come from that first electric moment in the kitchen. From the fear and secrecy and guilt that had marked our early days, we'd built something beautiful from complications, created a love story that was messy and real and absolutely worth every struggle. Tyler had once called us an unconventional family, and he was right. But conventional or not, we were family. We were love. We were home.